What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel Anime Fiction. I'm back with a new episode of what if Naruto was the immortal king of X-Men part 3. And if you did enjoy the video, give this a like, and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 7. Some of the Avengers had gathered at the Stark Tower for a meeting with the mystery alien who had come bearing bad news. Sentry, Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, and Tony Stark were the only ones present, as the rest were preoccupied with other matters.
Thor had returned home due to relationship issues.
Ant-Man and Wasp were preoccupied with their respective studies or relationships. Black Panther was back in charge of his country. Hawkeye was at home with his family.
Black Widow was on a SHIELD mission. Strange was preoccupied with the mystical realm, while Ms. Marvel was once again out of radio communication, leaving the team's brains, leaders, and Major Muscle to tackle things on their own.
Everyone sat around the table with coffee and treats to appear amicable, the Avengers on one side and two aliens on the other. "You can stop staring at my wife or I may have to remove your eyes," Naruto said as he waited for them to speak. They'd been seated for 5 minutes and had only stared at him, analyzing him. He wasn't bothered, but Sentry kept staring at Hinata for far too long. "I'm sorry, we just had a brief conversation," Naruto continued for him, "and she said you were a coward. Yes, and I hope you understand that we all have problems, and our paths are determined by our choices." Okay, enough silence. "I had a rough night and was hoping for you guys to take the lead, but you bastards are always pushing me around," Tony said as he cleared his face with a glass of water, splashing it on his face. "Tony, please," Bruce said as he backed away from him, almost getting water on his head. "What? He's telling you to act like a civilized person," Steve said. "If you want me to do that, take me to the restroom, I'm too tired to get up." "You are now standing." "I can't move my legs." "Okay, enough of Steve's clown foolery. Welcome to the Stark Tower. My name is Tony Stark, and these are my lackeys. Together, we make up the Avengers. We are poor blokes who risk their lives and time to save people in need. It's been going okay, but there have been some rough patches. I remember like it was yesterday when somebody hurled eggs at me when I was eating at McDonald's."
Tony, that was just yesterday. Oh, I guess times never change. Now we have experience fighting global threats, and my little friend said you have brought good news about a world-ending threat, which is wonderful. Please explain it in detail, along with your suggestions and what your role is in it.
"My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and this is my wife, Hinata Uzumaki. I am from a different world where all of us have the ability to control energy and do whatever we want with it. Our planet was one of these aliens' seedbeds for their tree, and it should have been destroyed long ago, but the guy in charge of this operation had a decent heart and opted not to. We survived, but more will arrive once they discover that no one has made contact from this region and that this squad has not yet gone to another area. We planned and decided to go on the offensive, and since this universe is their main base, we landed up here. They have numerous people with varied strengths, therefore I thought it would be a good idea to share this information with you because I noticed your strength and that your planet is also connected and could become a target. Watch the video on the side for further details, and our job is clear. We are going to battle them and kill them. Simple." Naruto stated slowly while Hinata gave them the slides and then turned on a video for them to watch, and passed these things to them to examine later.
Now that my husband has clarified the situation, we'd like to know if you'd be willing to work with us or not. If it involves the Earth, we will help you, simple as that, Tony replied solemnly. He may be a good person, but he refused to take part in another species battle, especially for these unknown individuals. Earth may suffer as a result of their errors. I see. I don't mind your choice because it's reasonable, but you'll still need what I have to prepare for this threat, and I'm not feeling very nice right now. Tony tightened his grasp on the seat as he realized Naruto was correct. They needed the information to comprehend the gravity of the threat and how to mitigate it.
"What do you need?" Tony questioned as he cut Steve off. This was a discussion for concrete items, not promises. "I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I have no obligation to your people and could easily take away what I want, but that would make me a thug, so we follow the laws of equivalent exchange. I need data on your technology, and I'll give you everything I know about the opponent. Can you really expect me to share everything? Of course not, I'm just curious about the armor you're wearing. Fine, Tony said, but don't expect me to explain anything to you or make a sample for you.
I won't, Naruto stated as he stood up. Good day, gentlemen. Hope nothing goes wrong, and if you want to meet me, talk to Charles Xavier. Naruto stared at them and said goodbye as he took the data from the storage device.
Was that really the right choice? Steve mumbled as he watched them walk away. If you thought otherwise, why didn't you speak up? We don't have the power to participate in some alien war. We have enough dangers on hand. If they materialize, we can deal with them with countermeasures or talk with them again, because they will fight anyway. I was thinking more about the case of their world. We might have learned something important, ways to repair this broken system. Perhaps their world was the ideal place to build. I don't think you want to know how they built it. Sentry spoke up to prevent this issue from spreading. They appear to be the type to sentence criminals to death, as many people disappeared the day they arrived, Tony stated as he showed them videos of sites where people had vanished. Why didn't you stop them? Steve and Banner were taken aback by this revelation. They were serial killers, and even law enforcement would have shot them down or sentenced them to death, so I didn't want to fight them for this thing, especially since we weren't prepared to face them. We can't impose regulations on individuals who can escape them, and a fight between us would have caused too much damage. Do you intend to subdue them? Steve relaxed after learning more about the victims. Unlike the other members of the organization, he was alright with citizens shooting down criminals if they were absolutely certain of it and captured them red-handed with proof of their criminal behavior. Sentry and Banner, on the other hand, stayed inside the law since their powers had caused too much damage and they felt guilty about it. The legislation served as a crutch for them. Tony enjoyed tooting his horn, but he, too, lived within the box since it was too difficult to venture outside of it. Hero business was more than enough for him, but fighting the system and fixing everything from the ground up was simply too much for him. Therefore he did the bare minimum. Fighting and constructing armors were his passions, therefore they were included. Yes, or they will only cause us more trouble once the government realizes their presence, or they will begin to act against it. I think we should take this topic seriously now instead of keeping it to ourselves, Banner urged, and they all sat back down. The next day, a new face emerged at Bayville College, bringing with him a large ego and a tremendous frame. Fred was a big, overweight Caucasian boy from Texas. He had blonde hair in a mohawk and brown eyes. He had a short temper and was quite sensitive to comments about his appearance. Fred had enrolled in college because Mystique had promised him that he would find true friends, people like him, there. He didn't know how to get to the office because the place was confusing to him, so he made the best of the situation. Hey, where is the principal's office? Fred inquired of a blonde man with a buff physique. Are you talking to me, lard ass? The young man was offended by Fred's tone and retaliated. He was one of those persons who liked to create fights. What exactly did you call me? Lard ass, hee. Ah, the man's laughter were broken by the powerful slap on his shoulder that sent him crashing into the lockers. Stop, Fred's body froze as he heard a beautiful voice and his gaze was drawn to the girl who arrived nearby. Please calm down, his words can't hurt you, so please don't get physical as it will only cause you trouble, Jean murmured gently as she grasped Fred's hand and looked into his eyes. We mutants need to stick together, Jean told him after hearing about him from Charles and seeing the show in which he participated. In a trance, Fred nodded and followed Jean to the office. College life seems boring, Naruto's wood clone grumbled as he tidied the crime scene before anybody arrived. He had all of Naruto's personality, but his power was limited, and no memories were given to the original. The clone was there to keep an eye on the kids. I thought you were going to say intriguing. Kurama also implanted a piece of himself here so that he could inform Naruto of what was going on as needed. That's far too cliché. Naruto had been in this new world for 2 days and had met with the X-Men. He'd been so a stern and brutal instructor to the mutants that even Logan seemed nice to them, but the few who stuck with him recognized the rewards.
They noticed an enhancement in their abilities as Naruto was able to mimic what they had. It was surprising and something they could relate to. Along with Jean and Logan, he had captured Bobby, Scott, Rogue, Peter, Kitty, and Kurt.
He was making them all capable combatants while also organizing their lives. The expedition, on the other hand, was going well, as Naruto and Hinata had gathered a lot of data that could benefit their planet.
Naruto could simply send it back home, but he waited until more data was obtained because he couldn't continually opening the portal and begging for someone to identify his home world.
Using Tony's data, Naruto was finally able to create a functional armor for himself, as his world had yet to develop a proper AI as well as nanotechnology. Technology may have advanced, but most of the time it was difficult to operate and required strong users. This armor was a nano armor made from a neutron star that had been compressed even more than it was naturally in order to increase its capabilities. It was then turned into armor by cutting it into tiny pieces that moved together and formed an overlapping structure so that the force was divided when hit and there was more than one rank to break through. The armor was so massive that not even Naruto could carry it because it weighed 1 trillion ton and had its own gravitational field that was even increased to disrupt enemy mobility. Naruto and Hinata were the only ones who could use it because Naruto created it with anti-gravity seals, therefore there was no weight for the user. The armor featured numerous minor seals to enhance its abilities and was so powerful that Naruto couldn't even scratch it. It took a solar system level of damage to bring it down. It also enabled an intensive speed mode that was faster than Naruto's original speed even without the usage of his own chakra, requiring Naruto to use super perception at full strength. Super perception was an ability that allowed the user to boost their mental strength and computation by a factor of 10. It was one of Naruto's basic skills, along with multitasking, which allowed the user to divide his thoughts into fragments to handle various jobs, and power dispersion, which allowed the user to build shields that divided the power into little portions before it could reach the body. Many shields could be layered on top of one another. That technique was a full cheat in Naruto's hands and the hands of anybody else who could make their body elemental, which included all of the top-rank fighters because their bodies could truly follow the instruction at that level.
This instantaneously increased their speed by 10 times, but only 3 of them could utilize it to attack directly, while the others dodged their planned moves.
With a speed many times faster than light and a mass of trillions of tons, the force of a single punch would kill any threat, especially since it was equipped with anti-regen and destruction seals. With the armor constructed and an adamantium sword in hand, Naruto and Hinata were ready for any battle. I appreciate your good behavior as a visitor. Naruto traveled across space, following the fragrance of the energy he had collected, to enter a study in a private house within a particular and safe location.
It's nothing special, and thank you for not treating me like a criminal, Steven, Naruto said as he approached the man in casual clothes and extended his hand.
Were you snooping around? Steven asked, taking Naruto's hand in his and standing up, giving him a loving hug. Nothing much, just ask Charles, Naruto responded as they separated and looked at each other. He felt much better with Doctor Strange because he had no dread for him and no reason to fear him. It's far better to stick with people in my league. No way, nasty lad. Don't think that way. That's the gigantic ego talking. Kurama had been working overtime these days and had finally realized that he was a creature of energy who didn't need to sleep. Ah, yes. How could I forget our old friend, Charles? Steven found it amusing that a mind reader could read his thinking without opposition. You seem to be having fun. I thought you might be stressed out about the threat, Strange observed as he sensed a friendly aura rather than one of solitude. Well, my partner wouldn't let me chill unless I made 100 friends, so I'm working on that goal, and getting stressed out isn't my style. I prefer to take things slowly and positively because a negative mindset will only destroy me, not my enemies, Naruto replied as he slid into a chair and relaxed as if it were his place. That is an interesting goal, but how do you know if you actually made a friend? Steven sat down and inquired, aware of Naruto's powers but hoping for an answer. I can sense evil, goodwill, and a person's feelings, as well as read their minds and souls, so lying to me is pointless. Naruto didn't disguise his skills since he expected Steven to seek his assistance if he was upfront about some things.
That's very convenient. I guess you don't have to deal with the fear of traitors, Strange said thoughtfully as he tapped the table and stared at Naruto.
Please accept my apologies for being a bad host. Would you like something to drink? Tea or something cold? Tea will suffice. So, what have you discovered? Naruto asked, looking around the room rich with ancient and mystical knowledge. Nothing good. Steven nodded. Anything interesting to share? Naruto was now eager to hear what his new acquaintance had discovered. Only two persons he had encountered had proven the ability to fight him, Sentry and Strange. Strange had more physical strength than Sentry, and if they fought, Strange's magic could screw with him. It will not be a pleasant war for the world. Hulk was also a suspect, but he had little chance of defeating him because he was a statue, and statues don't fight. Then there was Galactus, who had previously visited this planet, and Naruto was worried how that would end up going because no one knew the extent of his might.
Naruto was a clear-cut solar destroyer because he had yet to produce an attack capable of destroying a galaxy, and his basic movements could kill stars while his physical strikes could smash planets like crackers.
Regardless of his abilities, Naruto was enthusiastic in meeting all kinds of beings. Strange gazed at Naruto. The man was unfamiliar to him, but among the people he knew, this man was the most at ease with. He was clear about what he wanted and appeared to be truly polite. It was entirely natural, and he showed no fear despite understanding the extent of his power. People start to fear and treat you differently when you have too much power, no matter how close you are to them. It was the reason Strange avoided such people and preferred to live in the sanctuary with his wife and lover. Dr. Strange was, indeed, the Chad. He had a wife and a lover, and not just any lover, but Dormammu's mother-flipping sister. Strange took a seat as the tea was being prepared in the kitchen while his women were occupied with other things. After meeting you and dealing with my fight in the mystic realm, I went to my master and told him about it, and he told me that they live at the center of this universe, in a personal dimension, but they have a branch that connects to it from the center. The Otsutsuki King has lived for an unknown amount of time, and his abilities are immense. One thing is certain: if he wants us, we can never oppose him. Fortunately, the king has not been seen in a long time and appears to be sleeping. His descendants, on the other hand, are like local tyrants who thrive on pain, and they like generating havoc by fighting with other immortal species or simply messing around in the many worlds. But what's most concerning is that a group of them arrived here a long time ago. There are clear representations of their appearance in some ancient scriptures, indicating that humans had undoubtedly seen them. The issue is where they are, and if my conclusion is correct, we will be in tremendous danger soon. Listening to his remarks made Naruto serious since he had just received the worst type of news. His opponent had become a greater menace than ever. The worst-case scenario is that he has simply invited difficulties for them. If the parasites were already there, they must have planted the tree, which was not apparent due to spatial tactics, implying high-class individuals. It would also explain the Planet Eater's fascination with Earth, as well as the development of such a powerful monster on this planet. The Otsutsuki may have done it on purpose to cause mutations and then ingest them in order to gain new abilities. Kaguya had only released human potential after her rebirth, so it wouldn't be a stretch to assume that some other members had also recognized this and decided to harvest that potential because they weren't in a hurry or anything. So, what do you propose? Naruto asked, his smile provocative.
Let's join hands. Great, but let's fight first. We need to get to know each other before we can work together, Naruto said, holding hands with him and chuckling as he remembered the Avengers. He had already anticipated this, so it would be interesting to witness their reactions. I don't like fighting, but I can't ignore your words because your concerns are legitimate, so I'll make an exception and we'll spar.
After some tea and biscuits, in my pocket dimension, Naruto said as he sat back down.
All right, we can also contact Ghost Rider for this issue because he is a powerful being. Jean was accompanying the new mutant in town while attending Bayville College. She was aware that Naruto was present, so she did not hold back her powers and led him to clear the scene. I hope he doesn't create a scene. Jean was terrified not just of Fred and the Brotherhood, but also of Naruto since she didn't know what he might do.
Jean noticed the older man walking around easily as if he owned the home, and she knew he thought so because they had time to converse over the weekend.
Rogue was by his side. She had gotten closer to Naruto with each passing day because he was so pleasant to be around. She wasn't alone, as Jean and the others surrounding them felt the same way. It demonstrated his command of communication skills.
I'm not sure how he does it. I can detect emotions and thoughts as well, but I don't get the same outcomes. Jean reflected as she began taking classes from him regarding his communication and teaching skills, which were the most effective she had ever seen in her life. When you're with him, everything seems so natural and joyful. It doesn't feel boring, and all negative ideas vanish around him. Jean was unaware that her thoughts had been preoccupied with Naruto since the night they met. He was her instructor and a protector of her people, especially since he was a big man. He was the type she liked, therefore he was as attractive as Scott and Logan. She hadn't dated anyone because training and studying had been her entire life, but Scott pursued her and she fell in love with him. Jean was unsure how to proceed because her emotions were not as powerful as Scott's. "Jean, are you listening?" Fred inquired as he sat in the mess hall with Jean over lunch, while the rest of the group allowed Fred some space. "Of course. I found your story about jumping from a mountain very interesting, Fred. I hope we can work together and help others in need, people in poor conditions." Jean focused on him and opened gradually, like a teacher leading his pupil. "Hee, I am strong. I will definitely protect you, Jean," Fred replied hesitantly.
Good, and I'll make every effort to help you integrate into society and make new friends.
Fred nodded, his gaze shifting to a man watching them. "Is he one of us? He's calling me." Jean turned around and saw Naruto waving at them. "He is a friend, and you can trust him." Jean kept her look neutral because she could see Fred was a sensitive guy who was prone to jealous outbursts, as Naruto had already reminded her when she passed him. Fred glanced at Naruto, recalling the description of the unknown man who had discovered the Brotherhood. "He's said to be rather strong. If I can defeat him, I can show that I am superior, and Jean could like me." Fred stood up from his seat and was about to throw it at Naruto due to a simple mind process of a guy of aggression. "Relax," Fred heard the voice and felt his body go limp before the chair could be hauled up. A tremendous pressure was forced upon his body, and he felt as though death was only a few inches away. It's so frightening, it's so frightening. Sorry, Fred tried to yell, but his voice was muffled. Naruto, Rogue grasped his hand, and Fred collapsed helplessly on the floor. "Don't try to be violent the next time. Recognize that there are others who exist outside of you." That would have also made Jean sad. If you want to make her happy, be a good person. Aid her when she asks, and aid others in need when they ask. Naruto suggested as he smiled at Rogue, the experience warming his heart.
I suppose this is how family feels. While Naruto considered Rogue to be family, Rogue was unsure where she would place him, but for the time being, he was her greatest friend and master.
"Are you okay?" Jean asked as she stood up to assist Fred. "I am fine," Fred said quietly as he sat down. He didn't talk for the remainder of the break and ate without problem. "I think this is better than the trouble that would have come without his presence," Jean said, noting that the implications of Fred's outburst could have been even worse if others had discovered their mutant talents. "I'm curious why you'd be out in the open and so close to your rivals," Naruto stated as he entered the principal's office. "We have similar targets, and it's not like we're trying to kill each other." Mystique, in her true form, said calmly to Naruto as she stood up from her seat. "Hey, are you serious?" Naruto said of her. "Of course, we were friends once." "Where is the main focus here?" Naruto remarked, knowing that she had personally attempted to kill her prior pals numerous times. "Well, you got me. I made some mistakes in the past, but now I'm trying to be better with the kids. What do you really want?" "You can read my mind," she replied, standing inches away from his body. "Nothing, I just came to say hi. I hope we can work together and remember my offer," Naruto said as he murmured into her ears and held her body, his golden hand touching her full lips, and Mystique didn't know what happened, but she was on the floor confused and Naruto had left. There was a pool beneath her body, and Mystique gazed around in shock, stammering like a child at what she imagined had happened. "You should not try to seduce me. It's nearly impossible because I don't react solely to the body." Mystique heard his voice in her thoughts as she felt clear-headed. "That insufferable man," Mystique grumbled, annoyed. "I hope you listen to Jean and don't cause trouble again," Naruto stated neutrally as he massaged Fred's shoulder, causing the blob some pain. Fred was sitting outside the college building because he didn't have any classes at the time when the demon appeared near him like a ghost and spoke such words to him. He couldn't help but nod. An intuitive fear had been etched into his soul as he connected with the stranger. Fred had never felt such agony, and the realization that all of his abilities were useless and that mere words might kill him had devastated his ego. "Good boy," Naruto said as he rose from the bench and walked away. "He's all yours, Jean. Butter him up and treat his broken soul." Naruto smiled as he passed by Jean, knowing he had done a good act. "Ughh," Jean said as she covered her face with her hands. That obnoxious man, Jean wanted to smack him about. Why did he have to go to such lengths in everything? Jean inquired, but received no response because she knew him only briefly. Let us just concentrate on the present circumstance. Focus. Jean smacked her cheeks and smiled as she approached Fred. "Hello, Fred. Are you feeling okay now?" Jean asked gently, her expressions showing care for his well-being, which made the blob smile. "Naruto. What have I said about mind-breaking people?" Kurama asked, tapping his claw on the table, which was part of the mindscape vision. They were in a classroom, with Naruto seated on the seat and Kurama standing behind the desk. "That I should avoid it unless it is absolutely necessary." "And was it?" Kurama inquired sharply. "Of course, I had no way of convincing this stubborn kid otherwise." "Bullshit." Slapped Kurama's paw on the desk. "Relax, I'm serious. Look at this pure soul of mine," Naruto said as he extended his darkly glowing palm. "It's pitch black, just like your tongue. Have you gone colorblind?" "Fine. I felt like having some fun," Naruto boasted. "Okay. I'm sorry, and I won't do it again," Naruto said, seeing Kurama's reaction. "Truly?" "Yes, I always keep my promises to you, brother," Naruto said as he stood up and hugged Kurama. He knew it was all for him, but he was weary of pretending to be someone he wasn't. "I know it's difficult for you, but you need it. I know what it's like to be alone and hated." 110ths, hated it, Kurama replied, looking into Naruto's eyes. "Fine, no need for a sob story," Naruto massaged his chin. "Do you think we've gone insane?" Kurama inquired as he laid in his arms. "Why would you think that?" "I don't know, maybe this situation." Kurama felt strange. "You're just imagining things. It's natural to act out a play with your brother." "You're right. I could be seeing things. Wait a bloody minute, when did this begin? When did you do what? How did we end up playing like children?"
Perhaps the insane amount of training caught up with us.
"We might need some therapy." "No, I'll go get a lap pillow for those thick thighs while you sleep on my head as usual and enjoy the ride." "Thick thighs save lives," Kurama said with a toothy grin and a thumbs up. "You got me, bro," Naruto said as he exited the mental world. Raven sat in her office after cleaning up, attempting to ignore the man but finding it impossible. "He'll intervene no matter what." Raven recognized the man after seeing him and meeting him again. He was a problem. Raven was clearly bothered by his presence, but she hadn't caused any problems since learning about Kurt. She had made it a point to pay close attention to him and learn everything she could about him. "My child has undoubtedly suffered greatly, but I am unable to meet him at this time. He despises me at the moment, but what can I do?"
I can't join them because their goals are ludicrous and beyond dumb, Raven reflected as she clenched her fists at the prospect of Kurt being injured for some human cause.
A world away from all humans. Raven recalled and began to analyze this alternative. It was the most secure, but she still needed to eliminate the ones who intended to destroy her kind. Even though serenity was so close, it was difficult for her to let go of the unpleasant emotions inside her heart. "I can't take this step because it's unclear whether it was true or not." Raven rationalized her decision as she considered how to recruit other mutants to their cause and make Naruto disappear. Wanda was searching for her brother in space, unaware that he was having fun on Earth. Pietro Maximoff, 19, had white hair and a thin build. Pietro was a man of loyalty, having promised to help Magneto after being saved by him, but he was also a fun individual who liked his free time away from missions. So there he was, playing the population like a fiddle in New York. He enjoyed picking up wallets and other goods that he liked because his extraordinary speed allowed him to move without being spotted.
Pietro gave people wedgies, took their pants off, and even took off their entire outfits at times. He decided to take it a step further by robbing a bank and then purchasing a Lamborghini, and he was accompanied by the helpful neighborhood spider.
"Hey bro, how's it going?" Pietro asked, a cheerful smile on his face. Great, you know. Just awesome since you gave me a chance to leave my hot girlfriend. I sense some hostility. You think, Peter said after webbing the entire place.
Not going to work, so go back to your date, Pietro growled as he dashed through the webs that couldn't keep up with his lightning-fast pace.
Pietro, follow the signal and get the girl away from the X-Men, Quicksilver heard from above and changed course while raising his speed to the limit, thinking Magneto was unusually serious. Perhaps it's his daughter, Pietro thought as he arrived at the location in a flash and spotted Logan standing outside the door of a house. How should I proceed? Fight them, but Wolverine's body is too tough, so it's better to just take the girl, Pietro reasoned as he aimed for the window, but was stopped by a lightning bolt. Storm, babe. What are you doing? I could have gotten hurt, and then how would I be able to enjoy that chocolate body of yours? Pietro murmured flirtatiously as he dodged all of Cyclops and Strom's strikes while keeping his distance from Logan. Pietro, you had the audacity to set up my nephew, Strom raged, having just gotten Evan out of jail and discovered the perpetrator. Who? Quicksilver asked, puzzled. Ah, Spike Kid. I invited him to join me, but he had to decline. Logan cried angrily, stop running. No way. Pietro mocked as he jumped inside and seized the female who had been watching from inside after hearing the disturbance. Stop him. Logan yelled, but it was meaningless because Silver outran them. The girl had not responded to his catching her, but when he began running quickly, she fired out magnetic pulses, and Pietro became out of breath. He felt pain in his body and dropped the green-haired girl. She was hazardous to his health. Babe, that was just way too naughty. Who exactly are you? The fastest man in the universe, Quicksilver, at your service. Lorna Dane was at a loss for words when she saw the man who had just kidnapped her and was acting so casually. He was dangerous since she had seen him play with the X-Men and even spread devastation throughout cities in the past. I'm at a loss on what to do. What makes him want me? Why are you after me? Because you're a mutant and not the fastest now, kid. Naruto came behind Pietro and grabbed his head, forcing him to choke as he felt the iron-like grasp on his neck. Oh, rubbish baskets, I say. Nice kid, say hello to Magneto and tell him I'm waiting for his response, so call me soon. Naruto smiled as he extended his hand to Lorna. Come here, child, I'll take you home, he said softly to the girl, seeming to be speaking to Kurama. Please stop, it's quite unpleasant. Get over it. Lorna was taken aback by his appearance and nodded as she approached him and took his hand. You're a good girl. Lorna had been complimented numerous times, but this simple comment made her feel tingling and she blushed at his words. When they returned home, Naruto recounted the issue to Lorna. She carefully listened to him while assessing him. Naruto wasn't so dense that he didn't sense her attraction to him, but he dismissed it as a whim and didn't care about it save for the drama it would produce because Lorna's identity was so intriguing. Will you be teaching me? Lorna inquired, not thinking clearly and having forgotten to inquire as to what would happen to her normal studies and activities. If you can handle it, I'd love to show you some tricks. Magneto is currently blowing a fuse. I'm not even going to look at him. I'll join. So what forms do I need to fill out? Lorna said cheerfully, realizing that meeting such individuals would benefit her because she had felt strange at times. I'll leave it to the man. We'll meet later, so relax, Naruto said softly as he caressed her chin and tapped her cheek.
Lorna's face became very hot, and the scene shifted to her standing inside a study, with a bald man seated in front of her.
Welcome, Charles said as soon as he recognized who had arrived. Magneto was furious up in space, and not just angry. Naruto had cost him 2 formidable mutants and had turned into an iron barricade in his path. As the young man stood in front of him in shame, he smacked him across the face and said, "Get out, come back when you have done something useful." Pietro left the room since he thought those remarks had injured him. Wanda gazed at Magneto, knowing he didn't mean it but was simply upset. We have to aid him in some way. I guess it's time for me to make a move, Wanda reasoned as she trailed Pietro. Magneto tried to calm himself down. His plan to take over the entire world's armament system had proven unachievable when he discovered how many obstacles he would have to overcome. But it was only if he wanted the humans to live, therefore he determined that extinction of the majority was the best method, but first he needed to enroll the mutants and keep them under his control. He had only a few recruits in comparison to the larger picture because there were constantly annoyances, from the Avengers to the X-Men and so on.
He shouldn't have messed with us, Magneto thought as he clenched his hand, enraged but wary.
Send the Juggernaut, he said. Magneto had several cards in his hand to deal with problems, and Juggernaut was one of the best, save from the Ace card, which was too unpredictable and may kill him. Rogue became bored and restless as she discovered something was missing. Naruto had abandoned her for the first time in a long time. Rogue was aware that he had his wife to keep him company, but she wanted they wouldn't leave her out. Rogue had formed a close link with Naruto from the day they met and had absorbed his restless nature, which was acting out when she had nothing to do. She had no idea a clone had been accompanying her and was enjoying her new college life. It enabled her to forget about her insecurities. Knowledge of mutants was common, and people constantly seemed to keep an eye on them, as if someone with a pistol entered a room.
People would unconsciously keep an eye on them. Not everyone was prejudiced, but the extra attention was not appreciated, and it was especially bad for Rogue because the possibility of her power causing death was significantly higher.
But things seemed to have changed since Naruto started attending college. If Rogue hadn't known him, she may have assumed he compelled the dean to transmit the truth information about mutants to assist people grasp the actual situation. She felt the desire to spread her wings and soar, so she donned the Anbu costume provided by Naruto, because the X-Men suit revealed her face and all. I wonder if being a superhero is any fun. Rogue pondered as she flew through the night towards the next city at speeds she had never imagined. Anna raced like she was flying through the night at Mach 3 because meeting Naruto had been the finest thing in her life. This was simply the result of 2 days of hard effort with some of Naruto's might. If she had more time or power, she would literally be inflicting huge destruction by moving. It was such a strange but intriguing thought that Rogue suspected she had been inspired by Naruto's beliefs. Or is it yours? Rogue wasn't sure because she had visions of the world burning at times, particularly when her school burned down on a frequent basis. This week, Peter had been thinking a lot and concluded that the superhero business had gotten quite challenging. He met Naruto and thought his life was finished until he met Quicksilver. The speedster swiftly defeated him, making it one of Peter's worst confrontations. It would have been fine if he had returned, but Quicksilver worked on a different level, and Peter doubted he could tackle the mutant unless he was prepared with poisons or had the assistance of the Avengers. Man, I miss Naruto. Why can't I have a companion like him? Peter reflected as he surveyed the new foe.
The man was enormous, with a powerful body and the appearance of a humanoid rhino. The opponent was smug as hell, literally striding past everything with no apparent purpose.
The rhino had come to New York to steal Jonah Jameson's son, but Peter had overcome him with his brains and talents. The rhino was stronger, but he was too linear and foolish to use his power effectively. Man, the officials are as useless as they always are, but this time it's worse. I just sent this guy packing 3 days ago. Peter wanted to moan at the inadequate facilities and authorities' response until he saw another intruder.
From her body, Peter could tell it was a woman, but he couldn't recall anyone like her. She appeared at the spot where the rhino should have been and stood there, astonished.
Rhino had been thrown into a building after colliding with him. I was ready for Rhino, but now what? Peter was unsure whether she was an ally or an enemy.
The rhino didn't take the hit well and tossed the rubble up as he charged towards Rogue. Dodge, yelled Spider-Man, knowing that the horn was highly resilient.
Rogue noticed the warning and turned to face the slow-moving object. She took a step forward, avoided the horn, and used her chakra augmentation to elbow his left cheek. The rhino screamed in anguish as his teeth were crushed and his jaw was unhinged as a result of the attack.
Cool, Rogue whispered, her face bright with excitement. Rogue felt the surge of excitement that comes with being an invincible being in the presence of mortals. The enemy who would have crushed her a week before was now like a clumsy child. Through her new eyes, the hero she thought was incredibly amazing was slow and weak. I need to focus. Don't allow the power cloud my thoughts. Rogue remembered Naruto saying, his powers were great but he had an arrogant mindset that might be the undoing of an inexperienced user.
The rhino yelled in agony as he clutched his jaw. He'd been thrown again, but this time with serious injury.
It hurts, he screamed in wrath as he peered at Rogue, breathing heavily, but even he had limits, and fear was setting in as the girl looked at him, those eyes carrying no mercy. Hey, stop, that's enough. The big guy's down for the count already. Peter came to the rhino's rescue while trapping him with his new sticky webs.
The heroes are inefficient. They can beat the villains, but the system doesn't deal with them appropriately, Rogue said to Rhino. Rogue had asked Naruto about it, and one of the things he mentioned was that if she let him go like that, the villain would escape.
Rogue mumbled as she materialized behind Rhino and tapped his skull, a seal cut into his skin.
Do anything evil and you will understand true pain? Rogue said as she exited the area. Peter moved towards Rhino, massaging his head. He was learning to despise speedsters.
Okay, big man, you're going to jail, and since the chick might have just cursed you with some magic mojo, I hope you change into a good man, Peter suggested as he patted the rhino's shoulder and exited the scene as the cops arrived to arrest the villain.
Deep beneath in the frigid mountains, a facility was kept running where people with special abilities were incarcerated in specially created prisons.
There were 2 such individuals in this prison who could pose a threat to the planet. A huge buff man the size of an elephant was one such person. He was Kane's stepbrother, also known as the Juggernaut.
Pietro and Wanda resolved to carry out this job to assist Magneto. It wasn't tough because the institution held the prisoners but had barely caught most of them personally, thus it was a simple job with such formidable villains. Juggernaut. Charles has been having a great time, rich and powerful, so sad that his brother is just a prisoner, Pietro murmured sarcastically as he was freed from the liquid metal prison that had been holding him down.
He couldn't even move his body earlier, and it appears that the master was dissatisfied with his techniques, therefore the power was much lower than usual for this long, or else no jail could contain him. Hearing those words reminded him of the brother he despised, of the grin and joy that should have been his.
Ah! Yelled Juggernaut as he broke the final hold and his crimson armor revealed, glaring at the kids staring at him. Where is he? Wanda said, the same place. Juggernaut decided enough was enough and began moving, tearing through the walls and the mountain like an unstoppable force.
I'll keep an eye on him, Pietro said as he trailed behind, curious how the blonde bastard would handle this. The night was lovely, and the couple dined under the stars after a long day at work. They didn't grow fatigued unless they utilized their chakra excessively, but they kept up the charade out of dread of losing their humanity piece by piece. They were enjoying one another's company while eating a wonderful supper on top of a platform floating far above the clouds.
Hinata sat in his lap and they fed each other mouth to mouth. Their honeymoon period had resumed, and now that training was over, Naruto's wants were ready to go.
His need was fully on display, and Hinata thoroughly liked it. It made her glad that he continued to love her despite sending her to unconsciousness every time because he was insatiable.
Dear, there is a threat moving towards the people. I know, Kurama, I'll handle it. It's been too long since I fought with my own body, Kurama remarked excitedly as his body entered a vortex and arrived in Naruto's pocket universe.
It was a planet made of sand. He wasn't the only one taken here, as Kane and Sentry also ran into the portal that opened in their path.
A beauty at hand and a battle to watch. This is life, Naruto remarked relaxedly as his hands became naughtier. Hinata's moans were soothing to his ears, and he kissed those enticing lips once again. Magneto was not an ordinary man. He was cautious and constantly one step ahead of his adversaries. Juggernaut was powerful, but he knew Naruto possessed unknown abilities and speed that would keep him safe from the giant's grasp. As a result, while Juggernaut was heading towards the mansion, Magneto decided to pay the Avengers a visit. Magneto was intelligent, but his arrogance blinded him, and seeing Naruto's mentality, he expected him to act similarly and not make proper connections. He had no idea Naruto had already established contact with the Avengers, or that Naruto would go out of his way to relocate the combat. It was late in the evening, and the sky was filled with chilling winds, and the Stark Tower was gleaming brightly as usual when the top gate was ripped apart like tissue paper. This aggressive approach triggered alarms inside the tower, and several iron bots assaulted the invader but were helpless against Magneto's force. He glanced at the toys calmly, as if they were nothing to him, and he tossed them back into the tower. Parts of the building were destroyed when the bots collided with it. "Why are you here?" "No. What are you doing?" Tony said, his voice irritated, as he appeared in his Magneto-resistant armor. "I am here to play with you children, is that so wrong?" Magneto answered with a smile and a pointed finger at Tony, sending him flying back into the tower. Tony was irritated when he watched the elderly man play with him, but he was not distracted by his antics and carefully considered the reason.
"He's acting suspiciously," Tony thought as he collided with the wall.
Tony searched the satellite for anything strange and discovered Juggernaut racing towards the city from his prison.
"Juggernaut, can you handle this, Sentry?" Tony contacted their ace and sent him the data.
"On it. Deal with Magneto or I'll be back soon," Sentry said as Tony focused on his rival who was being pummeled by Hulk.
"It will all be over soon. I will not allow you to intervene, children," Magneto said. "My friend Naruto intends to have a good battle, so please stop." Tony was perplexed by his statements because, when Tony first met Naruto, he didn't appear to be the sort to cause harm or even fight without a reason.
Is he attempting to provoke us into a fight? This is really hilarious. Ha ha ha. Oh man, this is just too funny. Sentry was flying towards Juggernaut when he found himself going through a portal and appearing in a sand world. He couldn't find any signs of life on this planet. What am I doing? He had observed the portal and realized he had just arrived in a foreign realm by glancing at the sky, which had only one star. Roar, Sentry was pondering about something when the world began to shake and a big golden fox with 9 tails appeared, forcing the sand to stretch out in the air. It was the size of a mountain, and its expression revealed that it was clever. Sentry opted to observe since he wanted to see what it was after and discovered that it was after Juggernaut. Is it personal, or is there a reason for this? Sentry was not a combat maniac, thus he would never consider such a goal. Kurama was glad to fight since it allowed him to relieve stress and use his abilities. His body felt rusty after not fighting for months. Naruto had been one of Kurama's most consistent enemies during this decade, so he was used to losing every day, and to compensate, he battled other foes, where he won and gained experience. This decade had given him more combat experience than his entire life. Of course, the finest progress came from Naruto training with him, so Kurama received that experience as well. Kurama would take a human shape just like Naruto at his strongest state since Naruto was what defined power for him. He was the man who had covered him in this color and gave vitality to this dreary planet. The gigantic paw slammed down like an avalanche at speeds that would shatter the planet if Kurama didn't have control, but with control, nothing occurred as his claw collided into the inexorable force. Kurama thought his strike was ineffective since something was blocking the damage, and Juggernaut's trajectory had simply altered. Interesting, Kurama said, flashing his fangs in a wide-eyed, malicious grin. Kane came to a halt when he discovered he had arrived in a desert. He was too ignorant to perceive another world. A huge creature was attacking him and preventing him from reaching his brother. Kane screamed as he latched onto Kurama and sprinted towards him. "How dare you try to stop me? I will kill you." Kane, unlike his brother Charles, was blessed by an immortal being known as Sidorak. Sidorak was a powerful magical being who resided in another dimension, a higher tier being with unimaginable power. Kane Marco was on a quest with his brother when they discovered the lost temple of Sidorak, and Kane stole Ruby off an idol. Kane had been picked by his Sidorak because he could read the scripture on the ruby. He became the human Juggernaut, but his abilities may change depending on his eternal master's mood. But his power rendered him virtually invincible. Nothing could ever harm him, and even if the universe burst, he would live.
He wasn't invincible because he was foolish, and his attacks weren't up to the level of his defense.
His unstoppable force was sometimes used against him because he had problems stopping once he started the dash. But he didn't have much of a choice because street fighting couldn't handle a monster of this scale. Kurama's tails lashed out as he approached, but were pushed aside before millions of smaller golden tendrils came from underground to penetrate him. Nothing got to him, as usual, and he rushed through them. "Is that so? Try this." Kurama was playing with this toy when he locked on and blasted a bolt of electricity from his mouth. The beam was energized and extended beyond the globe, but the target just passed through it. "Wow, he makes no effort at all. Would you like me to break the link?" Naruto inquired, sensing a connection to Kane's immortal master.
Kane was invincible, but he was vulnerable to mental attacks. It was the reason his brother had taken him out and imprisoned him.
That helmet might have helped Charles, but Naruto was a different story, and he read through him like an open book. The link was to a powerful being, and breaking it may enrage him, but Naruto was never frightened of scum, and he would never make a compromise, especially when the immortal monster might not even be able to leave his dimension. No, let me enjoy it, Kurama said, turning his gaze to Sentry. Oh, Sentry observed, and the fox emitted more beams from its tails, half of which were directed towards Kane and the other half at him. While Kurama was having a good time, Naruto summoned Magneto and Mystique with a thought while his head rested on the thick thighs and Hinata's hands combed his hair. His appearance in the air without any resistance stunned them, but his presence terrified and enraged them. Sigh. I was giving you a chance, Magneto, but you treated me like I was one of them. You were just an evil old man, no matter how you justify it. Your pride led you astray and caused you to make the wrong choices every time. I gave you a chance to select wisely and help your people since I was feeling a little kind and empathetic about your position, but this was your option, Naruto remarked as he showed them the screen. Disappointing, really disappointing. I thought you were a wise person. Why did you think your life was untouchable, that I would let you live? I don't make compromises with anyone. I give second chances to those who haven't gone too far off the rails and regret their decisions with a desire to change for the better. I've never allowed anyone to live who hasn't regretted their acts. You don't regret those decisions, and you don't regret this decision. Let's see, if I hadn't intervened, about 20,000 people would have died and billions of dollars would have been lost, but this has no bearing on you because it has nothing to do with you. Naruto's voice came from all around them, and they felt none of the warmth it usually carries. It was the immortal king, not Naruto, who dished out the cruelest orders without hesitation. Magneto had gone with those words, I will take care of your people. He had struggled with all of his power, and the danger had even accelerated his genes to a higher degree, but Naruto's connection to the world had wiped out his ability to manipulate the electromagnetic spectrum. Magneto was merely a robber who took what he wanted, whereas Naruto was the lover, and the fact that Naruto had more energy to overpower him clinched the deal. Mystique had never envisioned her friend dying in this manner, and she sobbed as she felt the sorrow and the realization that she would never speak to her son again. Open your eyes, Raven, and come with us to see this show. I'll let you handle the group and place your people on an island far from others. This island will be protected by my powers so you can live without worry, and it will have everything you need. Mystique felt herself land on a platform, and her tortured heart was soothed by his calm voice. She wiped away her tears and sat in a corner, terrified of upsetting him. To be continued.
That's it for this part, guys. Thanks for listening to this video. I hope you did enjoy the previous story, and if you did, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for help and support, and have a great day.